Hello everyone and welcome back to Football Manager 2022 and a new experiment today where I have made 10,000 players unemployed in the game. It's actually over 10,000 players. I went a little bit nuts in the pre-game editor and I have got rid of a lot of people's contracts. Every player in the top 5 European leagues have all been released. I've also tried to release almost every player who has had more than 20 international caps. And I've also released pretty much every player in the game who has been earning more than £20,000 a week. So all of the very best players cut across lots of different ways are now available on the market. And it also means the dominant League teams of world football now do not have pretty much any players, even outside of Europe, because all of their best players would have been on contracts or international appearances that would have exceeded those levels. Now you can see there is nobody left on the books of these clubs except for a few, I think, randomly generated players is my guess, because I definitely deleted everybody's contract and some clubs have lost everybody. Some of these other ones do seem to have some players, but they could be youth contracts promoted up. Although Crystal Palace has still got Will Hughes somehow. Don't know if that's because he was on loan or something. Don't know why he's still in there. Looks like a couple might have slipped the net, but I don't think Will Hughes is going to be the deciding difference that allows Crystal Palace to win the Champions League this year. But you can see by looking at all of the free agent players here that you've got pretty much all of them made available. Lionel Messi, Lewandowski up there. I've sorted them by their current ability rated in the game. So interesting that Lewandowski is actually the second most highly rated player, and Mbappe down in 4th, Salah up there, and Ronaldo way down. 182 for Ronaldo and Messi on 194. A little bit controversial there, even if he is a couple of years older, but he is more highly rated than Neymar and Van Dijk. But all these players, no club, and even if you go quite far down actually in the current ratings, you start to see second division players just starting to poke up. You can see a couple of young players for Valencia in here. Again, must be maybe auto-generated players or some other reason why they've slipped the net. Another one here for Borussia Dortmund. I mean, they don't look like they're going to be changing the world anytime soon. But generally, all of the best players are now available on free contracts, which I think is going to be a lot of fun trying to track who the best teams are and where they end up. So what we're going to do is go forward probably just one season to begin with, so that we can see how the first transfer windows have played out, who the big teams are that have won the competitions, and then who is still a free agent as well. And then we'll go forward probably not too far, just 4 or 5 years, and see if it's made any real difference to the order of world football. So let's go ahead now and see where the big players have gone. Well, we are now 1 year into the future, and I tell you what, this is already exceptionally interesting what you can see here on the screen. This is somewhat unbelievable, to be fair. You can see Robert Lewandowski's gone to Real Madrid, Bernardo Silva, Neuer, Laporte, Theo Hernandez and N'Golo Conte. Real Madrid have picked up quite a lot of the best players, but Kylian Mbappe and Lionel Messi have joined Joshua Kimmich at FC Porto. That is a turn up for the books right there. You can see they've got some very good players in there. Mbappe, Diogo Costa, Kimmich, Vitinha, Pedri, they're all in there. Dalot, Bukayo Saka, Tony Martinez in there, Christian Tello. They've really packed out their squad with a lot of decent players there, Porto. They've done a really good job picking up players. Real Madrid inevitably have done very well. Big name, big budget, able to attract some of the best players there. You can see them. Interesting note, Barcelona or Real Madrid. And also Kevin De Bruyne, still a free agent, not picked up by anybody a year later. Erling Haaland going to Al Ittihad. Doing very well there, getting 23 goals in 30 games. Maybe should have a few more than that. Neymar going to Brazil, back to his home country, doing very well there. Not recent, quite a recent signing there as well for Neymar. If we just go down a little bit, Jadon Sancho playing in Qatar, or the United Arab Emirates, with Al Ain. Odegaard's gone back to Real Madrid. Salah and Valverde still available. Ciro Immobile and Harry Kane at Newcastle. Newcastle have done some good business there. still plenty of players unaccounted for. I mean, imagine the team you could make with some of these free agent players. They must just be holding out for much, much bigger contracts. That's the only thing I can guess here. But I mean, look at this current rating here. It's not that many high quality players showing up, which makes me think that maybe some of the other ones have actually retired at this point. I mean, Ronaldo has probably retired by now, but look at Neymar. He's dropped down to a 168 current ability. He's still only 30 years old. That shouldn't have happened to that extent by now, but I think being out of the game for this long has absolutely destroyed the current ability of a lot of these players. Very interesting how that's played out. I do just want to have a little look, actually. If I change the current view and add in potential ability, this one here, because if the current abilities have dropped, we should still be able to assess who the highest potential players are and where they've ended up. And you can see Messi still up there at 200, Mbappe, Neuer. I mean, it looks like a lot of players have just disappeared. You can see Jude Bellingham, currently under bid actually, 1860 Munchen, trying to pick him up. Gotta love that. And a few regens in here. De Ligt has gone back to Ajax. Frankie de Jong has gone back to Ajax. Ajax seems to have done quite well. Sergio Aguero has gone to Argentina to play his trade now. Alisson back in Brazil. Ederson back in Brazil. A lot of players going back to their home countries. Higuain still at Inter Miami. It's quite interesting where a lot of these players have gone. I mean, feel free to pause the screen if you want to see any of these in a bit more detail. Jan Oblak at Middlesbrough in the Championship. Jan Oblak at Middlesbrough. You gotta love that. Dybala and Diaz still without a club. I mean, Paul Pogba without a club. Lautaro Martinez without a club. Lukaku's without a club. And I still haven't really seen anything from Manchester City in here. The Premier League clubs don't seem to have done too well picking up the players. We will have a look at that in a bit more detail in a second, but look at all these players still without a contract. Let's go to the Premier League and have a look at where this finished up last season. You can see Newcastle finished as champions, losing just 2 games. All that new money in the club clearly helping them. Harry Kane, Damsgaard, Lamptey. I mean, that's a good bit of business. They're still signing young players as well, which is going to pay dividends over time. I mean, there's not that many brilliant players in that squad, to be honest. Man City finished second. Fabio Vieira, the big one. Leo Jardim, Todibo. Again, they've gone for youth players. Look, they're all 20 and below, which is an interesting move because that's not what you'd associate with Man City necessarily. You would have expected them to sign some big players. The same for United. They probably should have signed some big players, but it doesn't look like they have. Again, they're working with teenagers. They're all under 20 here. Except Paul McShane, who's 36. Why is Paul McShane there? What's that about? They signed him on a free from Rochdale, Paul McShane. Yeah, I mean, that's interesting. Are these their own players who they've developed? It looks like they might be, you know. Very interesting that they've not spent any money. I guess they didn't have the transfer budgets. I mean, they should have had the wage budgets, and these are free agents, but it's just a bit strange that a lot of the best players have not picked up. I mean, Jed Wallace is now one of the biggest players in the game at 14 to 42 million for Chelsea. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me what's going on here. If we look at the awards, I just want to see who the top goal scorers were. Che Adams, and then Abline from Man United, then Jamie Donnelly. What's going on with the Premier League? Why have they not signed anybody? That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Why they haven't brought people in. 31 million spent. 25 million actually buying a player from Porto and everybody's available on a free. I mean, I don't understand these transfer dynamics whatsoever. And you can see Liverpool only just avoided relegation there. I'm sure you guys saw that way before I did, but they've clearly not brought anybody in. Or certainly not anybody of note. Again, all young players coming in. This must be the strategies of the owners at play. Villa, Wolves and Watford all relegated. Burnley Brentford doing quite well at the top there. I'm not going to go through every league because I don't want this to take 2 hours, and I find this extremely interesting. But you can see Porto have won the Champions League. Let's have a look at the quarterfinals here. Olympiacos beating Salzburg, Real Madrid, Zenit in there, Benfica in there, Porto beating Real Madrid on penalties, and then Olympiacos Porto in the final of the Champions League. And Porto do win it 2-0. Olympiacos, they seem to have done very well on their budget. Joshua King in there, Mitrovic in there, Sanabria in there. They've gone for good mid-tier kind of players on a budget, Olympiacos. That's smart spending by them, with Porto up in there too. I mean, this Porto team blows me away how they've managed to do this. It's such a good team with Lionel Messi in there as well, listed as not for sale. I mean, that's just absolutely fantastic that they managed to win. So I'm finding all this so interesting. Braga here beating Real Betis, and then Antwerp, the winners of the Conference League. And they've got some good value players up in there. I mean, just what is going on in the game at this point? All those best players, still some of them up for grabs, sorted back by current ability. It's interesting that their ability has dropped quite a lot, and Lewandowski currently in the transfer list, despite being the best player in the world by some distance at this point. But Salah dropping down to a 159 rating because he hasn't played football. João Felix still available. It's very interesting how all of that has played out. Now, what we are going to do now is just jump forward probably 5 or 6 years, and we'll take a look at where the best players in the world are, and if the structure of world football has changed much over this period of time with all these new players going different places. So let's go forward a few years now and see what the longer term impact of this global shift really is. Well, we are now another 6 years in the future, or another 5 years in the future. It's 2027, and you can see who the big players in world football are at this point and where they are as well. And there's definitely been a shift. The Premier League were absolutely left behind to begin with, but look at where all the best players are now. They're all at Man City, they're all at Chelsea, they're all at Newcastle. Kylian Mbappe made his way over to Newcastle, a £53 million signing after 3 years in Porto. He joins Newcastle, the original Premier League champions after the Great Reset. Jude Bellingham made a £121 million move from Parma after joining them for free and having a year out of football. He's really doing a big job there. Erling Haaland has made the jump, just 12.75 million. What an absolute steal by Bayern Munich there. De Ligt now over at Newcastle after a time at Ajax, only just moved for 82 million. So these players are now moving on to new places. You can see Smith Rowe in there. But Man City really stacking the talent up. Fabio Vieira now at Real Betis, who seem to be doing quite well. We'll check them out in the Spanish League. Frankie de Jong has moved over to Newcastle. Manchester United, their first appearance, Upamecano in there. Liverpool, clearly not been relegated if they've got some of these players, but Parma seem to have done quite well out of all this as well. A few names popping up here for Parma. A sign that maybe they've done well in the Italian League. PSG starting to appear. Obviously the financial powerhouses were always going to recover with time, but it does look like all the best players now are at clubs. We will check the potential ability as well, just in case there's any big former name players that don't have clubs, but it looks like all of these now have also found homes. One player here, Oscar, still a free agent. Has he ever played a game since the reset? Yeah, he's been at the UAE for a few years after China. Likes money, does Oscar. That's what I'm getting from that. Ousmane Dembele, though, currently a free agent, and that's a weird little career. West Brom and then out on loan. A strange move from him, Ousmane Dembele, taking the West Brom offer. Sergio Busquets still unemployed as well, but it looks like most players have managed to move on to new pastures now. So worth probably taking a look at some of the league tables over the last few years. When we left off, Newcastle were the Premier League champions, but the very next season Manchester City came back, beat Newcastle to the title by just 1 point. Looks like the newly promoted teams did well as well. Swansea and Blackburn and West Brom all up in the top half, finishing above the likes of United. West Ham and Everton getting relegated as City take another title. And then City, I think, going on a little period of dominance, as far as I can tell here, beating Newcastle season after season. And that most recent season, you can see some of the traditional clubs now floating to the top. Arsenal still sticking around in mid-table, though. If we just have a look at the top goal scorers, well, you can see the Footballer of the Year here. Mbappe winning it the last 2 years, but if you look at the top goal scorers, you can see no real shocks in who's winning this. Looks like Vlahovic, who's a big wonder kid at the moment, or doing very well for Fiorentina, and in the press a lot for moving potentially to the Premier League. He's popping up quite a lot. Ciro Immobile did well. It looked like Newcastle were 2 of the top 3 goal scorers in their second season. They didn't win the league even then. But interesting, if we take a look at the Spanish league over this period, you can see Real Madrid take the first one. I mean, that was close, so 1 point. Real Betis just behind them there. And again, and then they do pip Real Madrid to the title. We did see them with a lot of the best players in that list, and they have been finishing up quite high. Barcelona down in 8th. I just want to check nobody got relegated. I wasn't looking at the bottom half. Nobody you wouldn't necessarily expect to get relegated. Real Madrid, though, really cleaning up. Bayern Munich completely unfazed by the Great Reset. They've just gone out, bought up the players that they needed, and they've won every title ever since. Hertha Berlin giving them a little bit of run for their money, but it looks like Bayern Munich just completely patched themselves up and went again. It doesn't look like they've necessarily got a team that's going to be winning Champions Leagues. We will check that as well in a little bit, but Bundesliga back to form. And then Serie A, the real interesting one. We did say Parma, they were popping up. Juventus managed to take the first one by 1 point, but the next season Parma get promoted and immediately win the title. That is exceptional by Parma. Not just win the title, they win the title by 20 points. That is incredible. They retain it again and again, and then finally Atalanta managed to catch them up and push them into second place. But Parma, absolute legends. Look at that. So much high-end talent in that team. They've got 6 players, all potentially worth over 100 million. That is an exceptional squad that they've managed to build up. If you look at their transfer history, they've not spent that much. They brought them all in on free transfers their first season after getting promoted, and they brought in some exceptional talent. They were the ones that made the most of the free agents there, and have managed to take their position. And Liga has really dropped down the toilet in terms of the rankings. Not doing well in Europe, it would seem. And PSG ended up finishing 6th. Marseille getting relegated. It took PSG a while to get back to the top of the table, and they didn't stay there until finally they seem like they've managed to get a little bit of a stranglehold on it. But PSG not quite doing what you would expect them to do, and they've still got an incredible array of talent in there, but their league maybe just letting them down a little bit. And if we just have a look at their senior squad schedule, so I can take a shortcut to the Champions League, we'll just have a look at the past winners here, not loiter too much, but you can see Porto made another final but lost to Real Madrid. Atalanta, Bayern Munich, Newcastle all in finals, but it's been Man City and Real Madrid ever since. They are the dominant teams in world football. In the Europa League, PSG missing out quite a bit. Now a Europa League team. Spurs have won one. Ajax managed to pick up a couple, but it's not too unsurprising. And then a little bit of a surprise here that the likes of Juventus and PSG having to win the Conference League, but they have been winning them. So definitely a dramatic overhaul in world football in this experiment. Very interesting to see where some of these players have ended up. But that is going to be it for today's episode. Do drop a like down below if you did enjoy this one. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you're new. But until next time, see ya.